right, and welcome to another edition of Conversations of the Heart. As always, it is your boy T-Till. We have two very special guests in the building today. My esteemed pleasure to have with us Nicole and Marcus, Mr. and Mrs. Bolden. Nicole here, she is a licensed social worker. She has her master's of social work. She has supported mothers, particularly young mothers, in a variety of capacities since 2006. She has been trained in postpartum doula work, and really has been a trained as a childbirth educator, and doing some amazing work in this sector. She really understands how to support women who are considered high risk, plus size, and who have been birthed via C-section. She is a transformative life coach, and a licensed social worker and trained in prenatal mental health. The list is endless, a lot of accomplishments here. So I'm excited to have this conversation geared towards postpartum. And then we have Marcus. He's been an advocate for social justice issues relating to the health disparities and the well-being of the underserved populations. He is a father, life coach, and he has a passion for supporting families, especially fathers, as they start their journey through fatherhood. He has his master's in public health, right, and has worked in the nonprofit, tech, and school settings. And so this conversation here, I couldn't have had it better to have two amazing people here, and I might say people of color here, to really have this conversation surrounding postpartum. As I told Nicole, I really wanted to have this conversation surrounding postpartum. I think it should be something that should be highlighted, and people need to be educated on this particular topic, both men and women, right? Because it is not easy. It can put a monkey wrench in a lot of households, and as well as, just making sure putting a lot of pressure on marriage as well as the parenthood journey. So with that said, thank you guys for doing this show with me today. But before we dive in, ladies first, Nicole, if I missed anything, if you want to tell my audience a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so I have been an advocate for people as long as I can remember. I did not always plan on being a social worker. My advocacy work had originally started as a lawyer. I went to pre-law
Wow.
because I wanted to help juveniles who were involved with courts. And so that's where my love for advocacy came. And then I was in a Peace Corps in the Philippines, working in a children's home. And I just did a lot of work with young people. And after I did my Peace Corps stint, I did some work with survivors of human trafficking. And it really became clear that social work was my lane. And I was doing
Mhm.
that work in the community for a while. And then we got pregnant.
Hey.
And I had my first child. And being a social worker at the time, I went and had childbirth education classes. I hired a doula. I did all the things you're supposed to do to
Mm.
have this great, like, non-medicated, crunchy birth. And none of that happened. I,
Wow.
I ultimately end up having like all the interventions you could think of, not treated well, and that really started my journey in like perinatal mental health because I sought out help after the birth, and it wasn't the greatest.
Mm.
And at that time, it wasn't a lot of providers of color that were specializing in perinatal mental health. And so there really weren't a lot of people that looked like me or people of color in general that was doing this work. And so me being the person I am, I was like, well, here I go. I jumped into it head first. I went
Wow.
and got involved with Postpartum Support International (PSI) and started working on their support line. I went to become a doula, and then eventually I got certified as a childbirth educator. So all the
Mm.
things.
Wow. Amazing.
um,
Marcus. Oh, I'm sorry.
actually, oh
Okay,
yes,
sorry.
right now I have a private practice to specialize in that because I tried working with other groups, but I realized I have a different heart and I have a
Hmm.
different population I want to serve, and so yeah, so now I have my own practice called Thriving with Baby.
Oh yes, and we're gonna get to that. Absolutely. I can't wait to hear about that. Marcus,
Yeah.
sir, tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah. So my journey started about 15 years ago. At the time I was in like in the home improvement industry. I was doing a lot of work as a manufacturing rep and sales with a couple of vendors that were like in home improvement stores, a lot of traveling. Um, at that time we had just got married, you know, it was like 2010, and just found myself kind of I was going back to school and in this space of like I want to do better, I want to get healthier, I want to do so many things. And after after about a year or so after we were married, I was actually just that's you know we found out we were having a baby and everything, and eventually I fell into this like I don't know. I didn't even know at the time what was going on, but I remember my boss was like, "Hey, you know, you all right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
things, you know, like you're not the same. You know, you're not performing the way you normally do." And I had been with this company for about 10 years, and so eventually I ended up leaving the company. I think at the time our first was what about a year
Mm-hmm.
old, yeah, something like that. And I just started finishing up my master's degree and started just doing, you know, Lyft and Uber and kind
Mm-hmm.
of kind of
Yep.
rebranding myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, you know, after some of the stuff she went through, I realized that, oh, I'm going through this stuff too. But you know,
Mm.
I put her first, and I was like, I can get through this, man. I've been through
Of
worse,
course.
and you know, like, and
Of
so
course.
I was kind of at this point where I'm just like, I got to do something different. Something's
Mm-hmm.
not doesn't feel right,
Yep.
and so you know, and at the time I didn't know anything about uh postpartum depression or anything like that, or you know, I was just hey, I just thought it was the what it is, what you do, this fatherhood, you
Mm-hmm.
know, you
Mm-hmm.
tired all the time and all these things, but I didn't realize there was some other things too, and so I just yeah, my whole idea was just supporting her and getting her through whatever she was going through.
100%. Well, one, congratulations on being married, what, 14 years now? You said 14 years? 2010?
13 to be coming up, right?
You said
Right,
2010. So I said,
yeah,
oh,
right,
that's
right,
14
right,
years. I was like, you about to hit the 15-year mark
right,
next year.
right, right.
So we'll be married 12 years. We've been
12 years.
together
14,
14.
14 years,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Congratulations on
yeah,
one being married 12 years. Some people
right,
say it's the seventh year is the doozy.
yeah, yeah,
People say that
yeah,
number seven. So
yeah, yeah,
once you
yeah,
slap by seven, I mean, you guys should be solid from here on out. So congratulations on that. It's good
yeah,
to see Black love thriving and getting through things.
yeah.
So Nicole, so when did you realize that you were having, you know, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety? When did that happen? Because, like you said, you did all the things that people tell you that you're supposed to do. You were actually one of the more proactive ones,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So when did you realize, oh, this is postpartum depression?
When I couldn't sleep, and it wasn't just insomnia, but
Mm-hmm.
I would cover. So our baby, we had one bedroom apartment, so the crib was right there. So there was no, I wasn't having to get up and go to a different room. And so it wasn't that. The baby's crib was right next to me, and I
Mm-hmm.
would still watch. I would
Wow.
find myself just watching her sleep and making sure she was breathing and just like
Mm-hmm.
really hyper vigilant. And I was like, I don't think that's normal. I don't think that's normal. And we did cloth diapering. Like I was hyper vigilant about everything. I hand washed the cloth diapering. I didn't put it in a washing machine. Like I hand washed it in a tub. Marcus almost died a couple times because we had a porcelain tub.
No, yes. Actually,
Ooh.
trying to kill me.
Like because it was a constant thing. Like every
Yeah,
day I had to wash these cloth
Wow.
diapers, and like I was hand making the food, and like it was a lot. And I realized because I was still doing work with survivors of trafficking. And then
Mm-hmm.
when it came time to go back to work, I realized my perspective had changed because working with the survivors, some of them were still in the lifestyle. And so
Yeah.
there's times where pimps were still involved. And so you have to have a different emotional barrier to do that work. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized I was like, I don't know if I can do this work anymore. I may chop someone in the throat. That's probably, like that emotional filter
Mm-hmm.
was no longer there. And it
Wow.
got real personal, the work that I was doing. Not that it wasn't personal before, but like
It's different. Yeah.
these were like my kids and I was ready to fight for them. Like I was mama bear for all of them. I was like, that's
Mm-hmm.
not healthy.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, just between the sleep and like the hypervigilance, I was like, that's not me. Like I don't like germs in general, but it was never that bad. I was never a germaphobe.
Went to another
Now,
level.
yeah.
Right. Um, so now, like you said, most people would say, you were just being an overcautious mother, right? So how did you know that it was postpartum depression, right? Because most of, being a mama bear is being that extra, right? Like it's being like what you were doing, people would say, right? So how did you know it was really postpartum though?
It felt different in my body. Like it wasn't just
Mm,
like, oh, this is my baby. I love her. Like I felt the anxiety in my body. Like it was
mm,
it's just like, if you feel like you have
yeah.
to move the leg or you're rocking, like I felt it building. I
Wow.
just had that nervous belly all the time. It's just like
Mm,
I didn't feel good. It was hard to just be. Like we would
wow.
just zone out. The only way I was zone out, we watched HGTV all the time. I couldn't watch anything else. We just watched HGTV. And I think it was one point we realized we've been sitting here watching HGTV all day and it was dark outside and we hadn't flicked on any lights.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just sitting there like
Wow.
that was the only thing that would help me zone out was just like watching these home renovations. It seemed so happy. I couldn't watch news anymore. I couldn't like do any reality shows. Like
Yes.
it was hard.
Anything that triggers an emotion you couldn't do, pretty much.
Mm, yeah.
Wow. Wow. So what did you do from there? So once you recognized it, what was your next steps?
So I sought out help.
Hmm.
It wasn't helpful.
Mm,
But I was also finishing my master's. And so we had to do some work. And so, like, some of that work, I was able to work through it on my own.
hmm.
And I got involved with PSI. And so, some of the trainings and talking, I found a community.
Wow.
The
Wow.
community really helped anchor me. I
Hmm.
wouldn't say I was completely healed, but I got to the point where I could feel again and I could function at a somewhat okay level.
Hmm.
If I'm real honest, it probably lingered for many years. But I was able to function and get through life and still work and graduate and all the things. So
Hmm.
it got me to a functioning level once I found the proper community. And
Hmm.
I started getting really heavy in supplements.
Okay, okay. So from your perspective, how did that impact, or if it did, impact your marriage? Just
Yeah.
I asked that question just
Yeah.
because some people, I've heard stories where that impacts the marriage in a very negative way, right? And then some people don't make it through, right? Their marriage does not make it through this point, right? But yours did, right? But did it have any, was there any kind of bumps along the way? Or was it kind of a smoother transition where, Marcus came in like, Black Panther, Superman, and just saved the day, right? Like,
Yeah.
what was the reality of it?
Yeah. I think at the time we had marriage because we were just newly married too. So we were still trying to figure each other out.
Oof,
That was
that's tough.
that was tough in itself. But I think the one thing, she pointed out that we would watch HDTV. We started, I would say this, like, I mean, it sounds corny, but we started dreaming. Like we just started like, okay, we're not there yet,
Mm,
but we just started dreaming.
mm,
She mentioned community. I think that was one important thing. I mean, she would always invite me to like these mom group
Yeah.
get-togethers where the dads were there too.
oh,
And at
that's
the
cool.
time, I'm
Okay.
like, man, I don't want to go to this. This is, like, yeah, I want to meet other folks, but I don't know. Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't my thing. But then
Hmm.
I started connecting with some of them. Then I realized, okay, this is good for us. And I think just doing stuff together, it kind of kept us together.
Mm,
Even yeah, there was some, certain issues and things that would come up. But I
Mm-hmm.
think, yeah, the community and dreaming and really just understanding that, hey, we're both trying to figure this all out. There's you can read all the books in the world, you can watch all the TV shows about
Mm-hmm.
parent being a parent and marriage and stuff, but sometimes you have to just figure it out. And we also had some church support groups and stuff like that that eventually helped us down the line, and accountability and things like that. And so I think we made it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dreaming piece is big. And I think the other part is too, I think both of us are maybe coping mechanisms. We go more inward instead of outward. So neither
Mm.
one of us like seeking out other people
Mhm.
to sustain us. We went inward and then just connected together.
Yeah, like
So there wasn't
Ooh.
like extra people to distract us from each other, because we were both just like inward dealing with our own junk
Mm-hmm.
together in the same space.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the problem. Sometimes when people are going through things, they go outward and then they talk to their friends about everything. They seek out other partners. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's when problems arise, where it's
Mm-hmm.
still not, but we went inward. So we weren't seeking out other people. And so when we were dreaming, it
Mm.
kept us a little more tethered together, because we were inward, but we're still dreaming together.
yeah,
Mm. That's beautiful because the one thing that I've, as I've been reading a lot about these journeys, the good, the bad, and the ugly from various different people, and just talking to different people about their journeys, it's tough. Even if they don't seek out other people, then sometimes there's a lot of lack of understanding surrounding postpartum. And then certain things breed resentment, right?
Mhm.
Because of the lack of understanding, right? The man is doesn't understand what's going on, because sometimes even the mother doesn't understand what's going on, right? And so
Right.
nobody knows what's going on. It just seems like, oh well, my wife doesn't, she doesn't want me anymore, or she doesn't need me anymore, or she's biting my head off, right? 24/7, or I don't know what's going on with her. She seems detached, right? It's me,
Yeah,
right? Or
and
right, she like,
something,
and so many
yeah,
things, right, run through your mind, right? And
yeah,
it seems like a snowball effect of like it goes from one small thing and then it just
yeah,
and then that breeds a lot of resentment. And to see that you guys on just newly married being able to make it through that, man, that's
yeah,
big kudos to you guys.
Yeah.
Big
Well,
kudos.
the thing is, I think some of that did happen,
yeah, it did.
but the grass was never greener on the other side. Like we never had that mindset, like I had to run. Like, yeah, there was detachment, but it was like we'll still figure it out, you
Yeah,
know?
Mm,
Yeah,
and
because
I
I think
think,
to everyone, I mean, there's a whole stat with the Gottmans. I could be getting the percentage wrong, but I think it's 67% of couples, married or not, after the first 3 years of childbirth, don't like each other. They have tough emotions around
mm,
their partnership. So like this is more than common. More than half of
mm-hmm.
people after the first 3 years of having a child struggle. Like
Oof.
it happens. It's very common. It's just like, do you have the mindset that the grass is green on the other side, or are you gonna figure it out together?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sorry, not cut you off.
no, but it's like I knew she was a fighter too. I knew like some of the clients she had and stuff like that. So I knew no matter what, she knew how to get resources, and whether they were great or not. Um, that's why I wasn't too worried. And the same with me. I was like, all right, we got to figure this out. Like, where can
Mm-hmm.
we go? What can we do? We're both, you know, you know all of like being a community social worker, you know how to get help, and
Yeah.
resources too. That we weren't we there was I was optimistic about as far as this got to work, or this is gonna work out. We just got to get through this. This is new to us, and
I love that.
yeah,
I love that. So Marcus, as you were saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you were saying that you were going through a little bit of postpartum too, or was it just you were just supporting Nicole through
so
postpartum?
yeah, I didn't know I was going through it until I think about 2-3 years in. I saw a picture of my daughter. Like it was like I had all the pictures on my phone, just like any new parent,
Mm-hmm.
but this one was different. And it just brought me to like a dark place. And that's when I realized, I was like, whoa, something just triggered. And that's when I'm like, did I, like it was hard for me to talk about it. And then I started communicating to, I was like, dang, because I was trying to, trust me, I was trying to suppress it because to support her through, she just gave birth, and
Correct.
yeah, her, like I can figure my stuff out. But I remember just looking at a picture one day, I was like, wow, something don't feel right about me looking at this. And I got emotional and all that stuff. And so then I ended up talking to her about it. I was like, and she's like, yeah, you probably went through it. And then all the signs, like I said earlier, like my boss, like, man, you all right? Friends are like, man, you all right? And just, man, I'm just trying to
Get through.
and be a new father. So yeah, there was a lot of changes going on. And that's what I thought it was at first. Like it was just changes of career.
Yeah.
I was in grad
Yeah.
too. And so it was just all these different things. And yeah.
Wow. And I think this is a good portion for men to realize that you can get postpartum depression too,
Yeah.
right? Even myself, when I first started trying to study postpartum depression, I blocked out this whole thing about men. Like I was like, okay, I gotta study women because you know what? One day, if I have to go through this with my person, you know what? I gotta be prepared, right? And I had this obsession with that thing, right? But never understanding that men could actually go through this stuff too.
Yeah.
I don't know the stats on it, but I obviously men go through postpartum too. Um, of course, the woman is always, the priority in this role, right? Because you carried, you birthed, right? So we understand that, but also men should know, right, that this can happen to you as well,
Right.
right? And to know the signs, try to know the signs and try to get help in advance. If you were to tell someone, a couple new couples and they're getting ready to embark on the parenthood journey and they're pregnant and they're going through, what are some of the signs, right, that they could prepare for, or some of the things that they could do ahead of time to prepare for this? I mean, not saying that everyone is going to have postpartum, right? But to prepare, to know the signs, right? From a woman's perspective, Nicole, what would you say that a new mother could do, possibly?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that, but I'm going to go backwards a little bit.
Sure.
There is a conservative stat for men, it's 1 in 10
One in
fathers
10.
will
1 in 10
experience
fathers experience
postpartum.
postpartum.
So that's no chump change right there. And that's because
It's not.
that's the men who answered the survey. How many men are actually answering the survey?
Right.
So that's a very
Yeah, that's
conservative
true.
number, 1 in 10.
Wow.
But for women, I mean the stats for women too, 1 in 5 is conservative. If you think about women of color, it's like 1 in 3.
Mm,
So many other factors. But for women, something to look out for is one, what's happening before you gave birth? How is your body? Because there's two sides of postpartum depression. There's the physiological, the body changes, the hormones, like that's that. And that's what people consider like the baby blues. Because after you have a baby, you have like the decrease of all these hormones that's flushing out of your body. That's going to shake some stuff up.
Yeah.
So it's just like, first, how was your body functioning beforehand? Like if you had PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, like you had severe PMS where you felt very radical mood swings for your cycle, or if you have fibroids, thyroid issues, you're more likely to experience like the physiological changes too. If you had depression beforehand, you're more than likely to have it postpartum too. If you have bipolar, if you had any mental health concerns before pregnancy, kind of just assume that you're going to need some support. And it's like understanding that you're going through a physical change.
Yep.
And depending on your care, that can impact it too. If you had a traumatic birth, your providers weren't listening to you. You had to have an unplanned cesarean. I had to have 2 unplanned cesareans. That was traumatic. How did the doctors respond to you? How did the nurse practitioners respond? The midwives, how did people respond to you? Because now that's going to impact how you look at yourself as a mother.
Wow.
Society paints this beautiful picture of motherhood. Oh, you're going to have the baby and it's going to be love at first sight. It's going to be this beautiful thing. And then your experience don't match up to that.
Right.
You may not even like your baby when you first deliver.
Mm.
Not every
Mm-hmm.
mom is instantly connected with their child.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that's not necessarily a sign for postpartum depression, but it can trigger it because everyone else around you is like, yeah, baby. And you're just like, yeah, baby.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That could trigger it too. Anxiety, more women, the studies don't show it, but more women probably suffer from anxiety, postpartum anxiety, than anything. We just call it normal. Like, are you sleeping? How comfortable are you with having other people watch your child? Even the other parents.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Even the other parent. Like, I don't know how, maybe now.
Yeah. Like I gotta make sure I'm holding the baby right. I gotta make sure that I'm
Ooh,
diapers on
even
right.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. Go through stages.
Yeah. So like just being mindful of how hyper vigilant are you around other people? How are you
Mm.
sleeping? How are
Mm.
you safe?
Mm.
Are you having intrusive thoughts? And social media can be a blessing and a curse at the same time. There's
Mm-hmm.
this people like, oh, my intrusive thoughts made me. No, most of the time what they're talking about impulsive thoughts.
Right.
Like
Right.
your intrusive thought didn't make you eat the candy. That's an impulsive thought.
Right.
Yeah.
Intrusive thoughts are very scary.
Yeah.
Right.
Intrusive thoughts are the ones that's like, what if I jump over this balcony? What would happen? Oh my God, if I fall down these stairs with the baby, will we be okay? Like these are very scary thoughts. And if you
Mm-hmm.
find yourself having these scary thoughts very often,
Mm-hmm.
check in with somebody.
Mm.
Because it could be nothing. It could be a lack of sleep, but it does not hurt to share that
Yeah.
with
Mm-hmm.
others. Yes, it
Mm-hmm.
can lead to things. It could be a precursor to bipolar, it could be a precursor to psychosis. So if you're having extreme intrusive thoughts that are really scaring you, tell someone. And if you're
Mm.
having this intrusive thoughts and you're like, I do have a knife in the kitchen, definitely tell someone.
Yeah.
Like these are
Mm.
very scary things. Someone's like, oh, if I hurt someone and I have a knife and it's right there, I'll use that one. If you actually can see a plan, go tell somebody. That's not normal.
Mm. Mm.
And you have a flat affect, like it. I should take that back. If it doesn't scare you, definitely that could be psychosis.
Wow. All good things. I'm learning a lot. Marcus, so from a man's perspective, new fathers
Yeah.
coming up. I know they're shaking in the man, they shaking, right? It's scary times, scary
Yeah.
hours, right? What advice would you give the fellas on how to prepare for even just in case, like if your wife goes through, right, postpartum, and even for yourself, like what are some things that you would tell them?
Yeah, I think the key, and it's just with any relationship, communication. Um, Although, I didn't want to always, and it's always a battle still to this day sometimes where, you're just trying to be heard. Um,
Yes.
have some grace. I think when
Mhm.
it comes to, again, she just had a baby. Continue to connect with folks that you might have to change some of your friend groups and find people that are pretty much, they just had a baby or they've been there. And I'm talking about, when I say this, like, yes, we have the old wisdom from some of our grandparents and the seniors and
Mhm.
stuff. They, they give you something, but I think you need to find a group that's still in
Yep.
that kind of like, yeah, I got a 4-year old, bro, you're gonna be good. Just get through this. Um, One of the things that I did too was, like, at the time I was big into running. Like I was running marathons, half
Mhm.
marathon. Couldn't
Nice.
run 10 miles, like no more. Like I had to maybe, hey babe, listen, I need about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, knock out 3 miles here, whatever.
Mhm.
And just have that time to release and have to myself, and don't, communicate that like, hey, can I just have this time? And I think, she was understanding because she knew that was important to me. And so that's even before the baby, where you're just having these conversations. And like, when we went to marriage counseling, it was like, all right, how do you support each other in hard times and stuff like that. And that's where that pre-work comes. She knew running was important to me. She knew other time I was into juicing and all this stuff. Like I would need to go to the grocery store. And so she supported it, but I wasn't trying to spend hours running like I was before. I was still having that to just, get out, exercise, and do some things I liked. But I communicated. I was like, hey, not to say she had me locked up or anything, but it was just like, I just wanted to, I always was communicating. I still to this day, like, hey, I'm doing this, and we always support each other. So
Absolutely.
I think, the key is just connecting with folks that are in the same situation or not too far from that situation. And then at the same time, be vocal, advocate for yourself in your marriage and say, hey, look, I just need some time to just recharge for the next 30, 40 minutes. And I'll be back. And hey, you know what, Tag, you're out, go do what you got to do, stuff like that. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's important to pre-plan having some individual time, because I know part of the reason why I was okay with him leaving to have his time, because honestly, I felt more comfortable being with the baby by myself. Like it was less stress. I felt less pressure when it was just me and my baby.
Yeah.
I didn't have eyes on me. It was a little less anxiety because I didn't feel like people were judging me, because I always felt like people were judging my motherhood.
Yeah.
And so it was easier for me to let him go, but it was harder for me to go myself. I had to, thank goodness I had other things that I had to go to. Like I was finishing my master's. So
that too.
The class. So I had to leave. But if I didn't to leave, honestly, I don't even know how willing I would have been to leave my baby.
Yeah.
And so just like having that discussion beforehand, like planning who's going to come over this week, because the reality is when people have a baby, everyone wants to show up that first couple weeks.
Yeah.
People are going to come take the baby from you.
Yeah.
And this and that. But no one's actually, I shouldn't say no one. A lot of times people are just there to kiss on the baby, but they're not actually there to take care of the family.
Right.
And so have a plan in place beforehand, like, friends, when you come over, I need you to ask how I'm doing too.
Yeah. Just be vocal.
When you come over, if you see the dishes aren't done, can you please help me? Can you just do it? I can't be the hostess with the mostest right now.
Yeah.
And I know people are going to come the first 4 weeks, but can you put it on your calendar to come week 9, 10, 11, 12, when everyone's visiting? And now because that's also when the hormones will shift again. Like by week 12, depending on how you're breastfeeding, if you're breastfeeding or not breastfeeding, there's sometimes another hormonal shift there too. So I need someone to come in on those later weeks and have that already planned out. Like if someone's out of town, like this is when I need you to show up, because there's always going to be 15 people when the baby first arrived. Can you come the second half of the quarter? I need you to come week 9 and stay a week with me.
Yeah.
But then also, if your partner took time off work, they may be gearing up to go back to work.
Yeah.
And now you're home alone. You make it real comfortable being home alone. And now you're in your junk by yourself. And that's when things get real funky.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's when you actually will get diagnosed with postpartum. Because in the first weeks, they were like, oh, you just got baby blues. You just got baby blues. Blah, 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 blah. It's baby blues. When you get closer to those later weeks, that's when it's like, oh, no, this may not just be baby blues, but now no one's there to help you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, have those discussions before the baby get there. Create a plan. Have the meal train set up. Have the schedule of when people come to visit, and tell people how to support you.
Right.
You cannot assume people know how to support you just because they had a kid before.
Wow.
Love my mom pieces, but she came and she tried to take over, but that wasn't the type of support that I needed.
Right. It's interesting. 'Cause I don't have kids yet. But I've done so much work as far as learning about these topics and these things that whenever my friends would have kids, I would call, and check up, and I would be like, "Hey," they go, "Hey, Terrence." I'm like, "Hey, how are you doing?" I said, I'm gonna get to the little man, little
Right,
girl. I'm gonna
right.
get to that. I said, but how are you doing? How is the man doing? How is the woman doing? How's my friend doing? I want to
Yeah,
know that first, right? And
yeah.
they were like, oh my God, like you're like one of the only people who really even ask me. Everybody just wants the baby. And I'm
Right.
like, man, because then it's just like you lose yourself, like your
Mhm.
identity. Who are you? Now you're just a mom, right? Or
Yep.
you're just the father and that's your name, mom, that's your name, dad now, right? But to everybody else, it's like, oh, just the baby. But what about you guys, right? Because if you're not good, the baby's not good,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? So thank you for bringing that up too, because as friends and as a village or family, everybody gets caught up in the hoopla, and I get it. It's cute, right?
Yeah.
But the parents could be going through real life things and their marriage could be going through real life
Yeah.
situations, right? And they
Yeah.
might need a break, right? And even I remember when I was younger, one of my friends said, listen, can you still invite me out? Right? Like, you're
Yeah.
right. Because, me, yeah, when I was young, I was going, I was outside. Right. And so sometimes, like, when your friends start to have kids, you tend to just automatically think that you're being respectful and say, they got to be out with the kid. I'm
Yeah.
not going to just tell them, hey, you want to go here and there? It's like, and they're like, even if we can't go, still like to know that we're still wanted.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Light bulb, right?
Yeah.
Like, aha, right? And he
Yeah.
goes, give us the option instead of you making the option or
Right.
or or just making the decision for us. It, just tell us, and we'll make the decision. Maybe we could get a babysitter.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, you right. Because up here, it's like, dang, man, it's like you gave birth to a friend, to a baby, and it's beautiful. But then it's like, have you lost your circle? Have you lost your village? Have you lost your friendships? And not in a catastrophe kind of way, but sometimes you grieve your old life.
Mhm.
Because everybody gets online, like you said, social media is giving a curse. I love my baby, and you might, and
Yeah.
you should. But then it's like, oh, I don't miss anything from before my old life. And it's like, you sure?
You're right.
You sure? So you don't miss going to the bar watching the game with your fellas?
Right.
No. You don't miss that. We're
Hmm.
human, right?
Right.
Like you don't miss going to brunch with your homegirls. I don't know, whatever it is that's fun for you, right? Like you don't miss doing the movie nights with your homegirls, whatever it is.
Yeah.
No, no, right? We know you love your baby. You don't have to prove it to us. You don't have to prove it to me. I know you do, but there's probably a side of you that probably says, "Oh, I kind of miss." And then when you see it on social media, you have a group of four, and now it's three, and now out there doing what y'all used to do. You
Right.
sitting here like
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was really grateful. I think when Lily was a few months old, we still had an invitation for a wedding
beautiful.
and we went and
Yeah.
we brought our baby with. I was like, is it okay if I bring the baby? Because she was small enough and I would carry her. So we wasn't even bringing a big stroller. It was like I
Yeah.
had her to
Right.
carry, was still on the dance floor. And that was so good.
That's nice.
It was so good because she was little.
Yeah.
She was
Hmm.
maybe 6 months old.
I don't even think that. Yeah.
And
And
so that was just
adults don't be
at
liking to
the
have
house.
kids at the weddings now.
Right. Right. Right.
That's beautiful though. I'm glad you got that experience. And it made you guys, I'm sure both of you feel amazing to just get out and feel like you again, right? Because
Right.
not only the friendships change, right? That's one aspect, but then it's you guys, your
Hmm.
aspect, right? What does
Yeah.
that look like? Like we used to be out on the, I don't know, but it's like, for some couples, it's like, hey, we used to be out on the town, like we date nights and like we used to go dancing and we used to do trips, weekend trips and getaways and flying all over
Right.
the place or whatever it is for
Yeah.
them. Like, oh, now we're in the house. What do you do?
Mm,
Right. And some people grieve that too. And it's like you're
Right.
yeah.
grieving everything. You're grieving your friendships that you might have like, or that dynamic is changing, and then you're grieving your relationship. that dynamic is changing. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big piece. And it makes a difference. So, like, yeah, with my oldest, I experienced postpartum depression and anxiety, but it hit a lot harder after our second. Just I'm having this revelation now. With our second, we have moved to the suburbs. We didn't actually have people. There's people who still haven't met our second child, actually. We weren't
Wow.
out as much. We didn't get all the same type of invitations, and then
Mm-hmm.
COVID happened.
Yeah.
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 So she was born in 2016. So I mean, she wasn't born in COVID, but like we didn't, people still hadn't met her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, people still haven't met her. And so we weren't getting the same level of invitations that we were with our first child. And the second time around, it was bad.
Yeah. It hit
It,
hard.
it was the worst.
Yeah.
It was worse. I actually had to I did an outpatient program because it was that bad. Like
Wow.
it a lot worse the second time around because it was all the changes, not even just grieving the loss
Mm-hmm.
of type of life that I want, but moving to the burbs. I'm such a city kid. And we moved, we
Me
moved
too.
to the
Me too.
burbs.
Me too.
And I was like, it was different. I was like, it's not the neighborhood feel that I like being in the city. And it was just hard.
Yeah.
It felt really, really lonely.
Mm,
Really, really, that made a difference. So like first time was hard, but I was able to push through and recover a little bit better. Second time,
mm.
it was tough.
Yeah. The good thing about the second time though, it didn't really affect me as well as much, but we were able to understand the resources we had. And I was able to identify like, yo, she going through it again. Like
Uh-huh.
all the signs. I'm like, oh man,
Experience.
yeah. So it was a little bit different, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think although, yeah, it hit harder, the support, like we knew where to go and where to, you know, ask for help and all that stuff. So yeah.
That's the
This is
beautiful thing.
this is not a one time, you know, especially if we have multiple kids, this can happen again, you know, and
And it can last for a long time, right? For a couple
Yeah.
years, right?
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, like the intensity may change, but if we're real honest, I would say the fog is just now lifting
yeah,
in
yeah,
the last like few years because our youngest is now 7.
right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so school, she started kindergarten a couple of years ago. And so
Mm-hmm.
we have 2 school age
Mm-hmm.
children.
Right.
And so it's a different space now. And the cloud is starting to lift a little bit. We're in a different phase of parenting.
Right.
So now
That's
it's just like,
good.
oh, what are you doing? Looking at pictures like, when did this happen?
Right. Yeah.
That's
If
an
I'm really
amazing thing.
like, I'm just now really like having full capacity again.
Wow. And that's like a 7-year journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And so, Nicole, now different type of question, but what would you want to see more of from the fellas, right? Not Marcus, because Marcus, he's a superhero in this story. So for the advice to the fellas from a woman's perspective, and because you have clients and they go through things, and I'm sure not everyone has been as amazing as Marcus, right? Um, but what would you give advice? Like, what do you want to see more of from the fellas, right? To be more of an advocate or more of just a support for their person as they're going through this journey.
Yeah, I have a couple layers to it. First is like, don't be afraid to do the work before the baby is there. Because a
Mm,
lot of times they're like, oh, that's your lane. Just tell me what to do. No, we need to have some tough conversations before the baby get here because now
mm,
I probably have a little more capacity than I will have when after the baby's here. And so like
mm,
let's have hard conversations. What is your current love language? How can I show you that I still care about you? Because I'm not gonna have a lot of time to do whatever I used to do. Like I can't be listening. I'm not gonna have the attention span to listen to you vent
Yeah.
because I
mm.
actually care. I would care. I would care, but I won't. And
Okay.
so it's just like, but that doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means I may have a lot of anxiety. I'm like, I keep looking like, is the baby okay? So what else can I do to show you that I care? What is the love
Mm,
language? It's that one thing that has to be a non-negotiable for us.
mm.
Like, do we need to sit down and at least have some tea together?
Right.
To connect for a few minutes.
Right.
You know, like conversation. What is your love language right now? How can we remember to check in with each other when we know we're going to be working off zero sleep?
Right.
And for the guys to be accepting to that, because and I've worked with a couple fellas, and I know it's hard sometimes. Like sometimes they feel like they're competing with the baby.
Yeah.
They were there
Yeah.
new human,
right?
They haven't quite bonded with, is now taking their spot,
right?
Because the baby has had 9 months to bond with the baby,
right?
And so mom is like, "Well, this is the baby," and the guy is like, "This is still a new person here. I just met this kid. How dare you?"
Yeah,
you know. So like for the guys to really remember, like it's not that we don't care about you. You don't have to fight for time, but we have to be intentional with how you can feel connected. It's going to look different. It's going to look different.
It's interesting because you say that because I've spoken to a couple of fellas and just how sometimes they felt about these things before they knew kind of just what it was, right? It's that they felt like they were losing, again, grief. They were losing the person that they married or the person that they knew, right? And it turned into, now this person doesn't love me anymore, or she got what she wanted, which was the baby of the ring, and now it's to get me now, right?
yeah,
All of these things start to play in the guy's head, right? And a lot of it is grief driven because it's just like, I want the person that I married or that I
right.
met, right?
Mhm.
And now this person doesn't seem interested anymore. So
Yeah.
now where do we go from here at this point? Because if you ain't interested, then you know what? Then fine, I ain't interested. Right now it goes into this whole thing, right? Which
Right.
it doesn't have to go that way, but sometimes it does because your mind like erases and you start
Mhm.
replaying all kinds of scenarios in your head about, oh, did I make the right decision? What did I do? Like, like this isn't the person. She don't even like me anymore. Okay, like what? And it's like, and people think sometimes men don't think. Like, oh man, men don't have
Oh
feelings.
yeah,
No, men
yeah,
got feelings, bro. And men be thinking.
yeah.
Right.
Right.
Women overthink too sometimes, but men be overthinking too. Like, let's not get it twisted. Men be thinking. We may not say, right? But it's all from
That's the truth.
here, here,
Yeah,
here, here. Like it's
yeah.
everywhere. It gives you sleepless nights too.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And so I like that you said that because if you can plan ahead, what is your love language so that you don't feel neglected, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And now some women might say, Nicole, bump that. I had to carry this for 9 months. I don't care about all that. I
Yeah.
tell the truth. I ain't lying now,
No, it's the reality. Yep.
Yeah. But it's
right?
just like, hey, do you want the relationship to last? Because it's true. You have carried a whole child and it's a lot, and that's not the first thing on your mind. But it's like you still have other people here, and you
Yeah.
you don't, let's be realistic. It's not gonna be every day, but how can you show a little bit, so this is also going to help you because it's going to give you a little space to not just be focused on the baby 24/7.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's not healthy either. That's just going to fuel your anxiety. Like this is also helping you. If you can turn your attention, even if it's for a couple minutes only, this is going to help give your brain evidence that you can take your thoughts off the baby and the baby will still be safe, even for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Mm.
So this is a dual purpose. Yes, it's going to save your relationship, but it's also going to save you.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. I love that. Because it is, especially if you're married, right? It's yes, how can we thrive or how can we survive or how can we deal with this, right? Because
Right.
if you don't deal with this, it's going to continue.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And some people feel like, oh, well, it's just for this long and then it'll go back to normal. But it's like, if you don't have any intentionality, right, about
Right.
your
Normal.
relationship, then it won't. It'll just
Right.
continue going down this path. And
Yep.
somebody or both people are going to drift apart or resentment.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, how do we end up in divorce court? Right. How did
Right.
we get here? Right. And it's like, well, you don't understand. Well, then you don't understand what I'm going through. No, you don't understand how I, right?
Yeah.
And it becomes a this thing instead of a this thing.
Right.
And the one thing that I can say about you two is what I love about what you said before is that you found something to dream about together.
Yeah.
And that brought you guys together to say, hey, this could be us,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
if we can make it through this HDTV thing could be us. We could be out here getting this house,
Yeah.
multiple levels in a big backyard, whatever,
Yeah.
multi-car garage and all of that stuff. That could be us, right? And that
Yeah.
gives you something to hold on um, to sustain your marriage, right?
Yeah.
And I think the
And
other piece of that too is that if you're very intentional with what you're putting into your mind and what you're putting into each other,
Right.
you're not comparing yourself to other couples because it's going to be there.
Yeah.
It is going to be there. Where it's like, well, look at them. Well, she's
mm-hmm.
like, look like they got it all together. But if you're mindful, because we weren't looking at a lot of reality TV, we weren't looking at a lot of stuff. So we were just putting in dreams.
Yeah.
And so
Mm.
we had the comparison, but it wasn't as intense as some people.
Which could
Yeah.
be tough on social media. You got the baby, you see another couple with a baby, and they live in life. Like they got the baby, they outside, they out Disney World, they in Paris, wherever they're at,
Yeah.
and you just sitting
Yeah.
there like we just in the house. What the heck is wrong with us? Right?
Mhm.
Like, and they're
Right.
showing how much
Yeah.
they're in love and kissy and doing all these things on the plane, and we're just like, well, that's not us. How
Right.
did what is wrong with us? And that unfortunately is the comparison, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think there was a point too where um we had took a marriage class like after our remember when we had went through that
Oh yeah.
Gottman class, and then we realized like these things are not that bad in our marriage. We good. Like looking at some of these people, and these were like some of these folks were like just got married and they fighting about socks on the floor and stuff like. I'm like, man, I wish I had them problems. Like, and we just laughed, and that's when I think that was like a point where we connected. It was like, all right, we can get through this, and we started really studying Gottman, like his theories of how do you have those tough conversations, or how do you fight fair, and you know, she's she
Oof.
she she was a Stonewall type of, like she would just shut down, and I'm the opposite. I'm like, come on, we're gonna talk about this, or
That's like me too. That's me
I had,
too. Let's
I
get
had
this work.
to
Let's
learn
get
how
this
to,
conversation right now.
and then the therapy stuff would start going in where because she
hmm
she was real good at like asking me the right questions, but I thought it was like, don't put me in the hot seat. Don't put me like I'm your client, or like I was like, you're gonna talk to me. We're gonna fight in a way where we can both communicate, and not that I'm in the hot seat all the time. And the
hmm
questions. I think that was a turning point too, where when things like I really didn't understand, how to communicate. Like I lost some things, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that was key, and I think we kind of got over that hump a little bit, and um yeah, I mean that's the key. It's just again communication, learning that, and being vocal and understanding. Hey, this is a time period. Like even now, we have kids. We have an 11-year-old who wants to be a teenager, a super teen. She wants to be 16. I have an 8-year-old who's just, I mean, she's one of these COVID kids where they're just, they were out of school for so long and they trying to figure
hmm
out life. They weren't
Yeah.
in class all the time. And so this is a new adjustment for us, like a new phase in life. And we're just learning how to do that. But hey, at the end of the day, we'll figure out, okay, what do we need to do especially me, like what do I need to do to help my family, like go through
hmm
these, and myself too. I'm in my mid 40s, and
hmm
in that shift too. And I'm just like, all right, I look at the world differently. I'm cool with just walking and being by myself, but it's not good all the time. And
hmm
so I got to find community, and yeah, so it's always like this circle of you're gonna always be evolving, changing,
Yes.
and if you do it together and like, or not even just communicate and understand and talk about your dreams and all that stuff, then it makes it a lot easier. Even when it gets rough, it's like, hey, remember when we talked about this and you
Mm.
know that, and I don't like to go back to Goblin, but those thoughts in my head, like, hey, look, let's
hmm
make sure communicate correctly and not get loud, fight. Because I already know nothing's gonna come from that. And she,
I would not respond.
right.
Like, oh.
Yep. And that's exactly what I get.
I
And I'm not getting nowhere with that. I'm like, so it's more like about this tomorrow, Tuesday or whatever. But let's go ahead and watch Yellowstone or
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being willing to fun together. Like we're willing to try strange things. During COVID 2020, 2021, we bought our RV and we traveled for a year. Neither one of us are campers.
Nope.
I told you before, I was a city kid. I'm a legit city kid. I had never been in an RV in my life. I had never camped in my life. But we bought that RV. We figured it out.
Right.
We figured it out. And we did it for a whole year.
Yeah.
And like some people got to figure out how to communicate to back the RV up. And we had people were impressed with us. We did a great job.
Right.
Moving parking. And so being willing to try new things. And
Black folks camping. I've heard it all. That's
what everybody.
That's a wildlife. I don't know. I'm from New York City. We just got some raccoons and maybe some rats. Something. That's about the extent of where my wildlife goes.
Right.
So that's a different thing. But you're right, though.
It's very much glamping. We had 2 bedrooms. Like I have full bed. I can work out.
Oh, you wasn't outside.
No.
Okay. All right. I don't feel that bad now.
Glamping
I would do.
Yeah,
I've heard some good things about glamping.
We had a toilet. We had all that. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We were not roughing it. It was just still a new experience in like RV parks and stuff. And it's like different people are RVing and trying to figure out how to dump you got to dump your own take. You don't have regular sewage.
Right.
You have to have a hose.
Wow.
What to do? Water conservation is like you only got so much water in the tank, or like
you can only put so much weight in RV. So it was just all these different things where I think that was a turning point too, where we had to communicate, because here we are traveling from Chicago out west in an RV. 2020, we already know what was going on. It was here, George Floyd, COVID, all of it. And here we are just trying to figure this out. And I think, I'm not saying go RV to save your marriage, but
no.
make it.
But we had a good HGTV show for y'all. Created, I'm just saying.
We had to make it work because, we have 2 children. So, we always had to communicate and just be aware of our surroundings and like what we're doing. And, we had things break down and stuff, but I think that was key too. Just and that goes part to what I was saying earlier. Just dream. We're thinking about what we got 9-10 more years before these kids are out the house, off to college or whatever they're doing. Adult, into adulthood. What's that phase gonna look like? And so it's constantly just like, how do we prep now for that? And
right. And then what does that look like for you two? Like as a couple, you guys get to be back outside a lot more, right? And traveling if that's what you want to do and doing those things, right? So it's dreaming about those things now, right? And what that looks like for you. I love that because, even though this show is about postpartum and learning and educating, people are getting also a marriage course right here. A relationship course right here of the importance of dreaming and believing and where you guys could be, right? And I think that's amazing because it also shows imagination, how far your imagination can go with each other, and it gets you excited about the future, about what it could be, right? And how can we get there with each other, right? And it also leaves room for change.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is just my personal opinion. Sometimes people have a hard time with change, and they don't allow for change in any relationship. It's like, hey, how I met you is how I want to keep you, right? And not understanding sometimes the dream changes. Sometimes people change. Sometimes people have different circumstances. They get sick, right? People get laid off. People, right? And they're stuck on, well, this is just what I want. This is just the way things should go, right? And that's not real reality. and always leaving room for change and grace, and is essential, right? So I really salute you guys for your journey. Um, and I want to know a little bit more about thriving with baby. Please, I want to know more about that.
Yeah, the whole dream of it was to build community because we had kids. I was 30, Marcus was already 34. And
Oh, she
so
said you old.
our
You was already old. Okay, cool.
either they already had kids older or they didn't have kids at all.
Right.
And so we were in that in between of like, we didn't really have a community of our own of people that was in the same time period.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of our closest friends, their kids were almost teenagers or, a lot older. So
That's the spot I'm at right now. I'm 39, turning 40 this year.
they were different. And so we were just like, we need community. And, we didn't have support looked different. And so we wanted to be able to create a space to provide support for families the way that we envision will help families thrive well. Because a lot, you can lose yourself in parenthood.
Yep.
You can lose your whole identity. And it's just like, oh, I'm Lily's mom, I'm Zion's mom. Like, you forget who you are and you forget who your partner is.
Yep.
And so we want a community where not only do you learn how to be a healthy parent, but be a healthy person, holistic. And I didn't see a lot of that, even the moms groups is a lot of time they were saved me, but a lot of times it was just very kid heavy.
Yeah.
It was very kid heavy. They forgot who we were as individuals. It's like, sometimes I think back to my mom's groups. I don't know what half those people did outside of being a parent. And that's important. Yeah. What do they like to do besides throw parties where kids can come?
Yeah.
And part of that could have been my own depression that I was just blocked out stuff, but I don't remember what a lot of people did, who they were outside of their parenthood. So we wanted to build that community where people could holistically be themselves while being healthy parents to raise healthy humans to put in this world.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. One thing that we started doing was creating like family mission statements, values, vision, almost similar to like what corporations do.
Yeah.
What is it? Faith, like different, like what are things you stand for, loyalty and friendships and all that stuff, and trying to get new parents to really look at that stuff. Because I think, I mean, if we look back, that's what helped us eventually. Like, again, dreaming. Like, I hate saying that, but that's the thing, just setting that up and saying like, you know what, that's not part of who we are. Like, that's not our family identity. And what is that? Like, let's create that. And so that was, especially during those times, like after the second, that's when we really started diving into it, and we're able to help new parents all the time. Just, it's gonna be okay, but you got to do this. You should don't think about the stroller. Think about the love of your family and the things that are keep you going, like the mission and like what do you stand for and stuff like that. So
yes, based off a lot of like Stephen Covey,
yeah,
think about the end, like work with the end in mind.
End in mind.
The end in mind is still a happy relationship.
Yep.
And so if that's the end, how do we piece everything together? We want to have a happy relationship and cool humans in the world.
Right.
Like, humans
right.
are going to eventually be big humans.
Yeah.
And we want them to be good contributors to the society. So if that is the end result, how do we reverse engineer that and work with intention? Every day, if you are employed, you go to someone's job and there you working with someone else's intention and their purpose, making them money, making their brand successful in the world, but you don't do that with your own family.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Why? And so it's encouraging you to work with the same integrity and intention for your family as you do with your job.
Yep.
I love that. I love that. Well, I mean, you guys have said a lot. You guys have dropped a lot of gems. I've learned a lot. I'm inspired. Um, and I just want to salute you guys. To one, just for the work that you're doing. I've worked in the nonprofit sector for years doing work. I've worked in the tech industry too, just like you,
Yeah,
Marcus. I like a lot of similarities here. But just the work that you guys are doing in this space, right? And the work that you're doing, Nicole, on with postpartum, with motherhood, parenthood. I salute you because it's not easy. And you're changing a lot of lives, and I know a
yeah,
lot of lives are going to be changed. Once this comes out and people listen to this, and I know that they're going to be educated. And thank you for being leaders in the communities, and a champion for mental health and people and the
yeah,
underserved.
yeah.
I
Very important.
really appreciate that. And thank you for being one of the leaders in Black love. And telling honest truths about it's not all Disney, guys, right?
No,
It's
not at
not all
all.
Disney, right?
Right.
It's work. Sometimes you got to be creative, you got to have an
Yep.
imagination, but it ain't
Yep.
Disney, right? But it can be a really great thing if you put your mind to it and two people work towards it.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for being an example to us all. Um, and I'll just leave if there's anything that you guys want to say, tell the people how they can reach you, how they, the social medias, how they can follow you, get involved, right, with Thriving with Baby, right? The floor is yours.
Yeah, so Thrive with Baby, like we want the virtual community, but my dream, my hope is hopefully next year to actually have a physical space where people can gather. Because what we're realizing, especially with the work from home, people are more and more isolated. People are more lonely.
Yep.
And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
how can we have a space where um, you have medical providers that have a similar mindset from what I'm looking for, like holistic health, like a nurse practitioner, a dentist, have a center where all those people are there, but it also be a community center. So people are gathering there. There's childcare there. You can go and meet people for coffee, like a legit community center. Because a lot of times community centers now, nothing's wrong with them, but a lot of people just think, oh, low income. You go
Mm-hmm.
get a hand, but I want this to be a legit community center where you come and just be. You meet up with people there. You get your doctor's visit there. You
Yeah.
get your therapy there. It can be good for the community as a whole and to be very intergenerational because like if you think about kids with special needs, sometimes it's hard for them to go to doctors and meet people because there's a lot of stigma. There's not
Yeah.
people don't know how to understand how to support them. But this
Mm-hmm.
could be a place for them. And it could be
Absolutely.
easy to get their medical needs met because it's still in the same place. Think about seniors. Memory loss
Mm-hmm.
is a thing.
Mhm.
But if they have a community center to go to, people have eyes on them so they can stay at home longer.
Mm-hmm.
They can go to the doctor. People like, hey, Susie over there, she's looking different today. Come in my
Mm-hmm.
office. So it's like bringing people together again. So I really will need a lot of support with that. And so I'm going to start leaning from the one-on-one therapy and doing more group stuff and community stuff,
Love
like
it.
bigger scale stuff,
Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
that we can have the funds to get this going.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if I'm going to have a podcast coming out, hopefully in August, called
Nice.
Embolden to Thrive, kind of a play off the last name.
That's,
Embolden
I
really
peeped
means
it. I peeped it. I heard. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
okay. I see what
Yeah.
y'all doing. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
supposed to be like a sanctuary for parents to, especially mothers, to just come and talk about the hard things. So really getting out there, want to connect with other people, collaborate. So
Yeah.
that's the big things for Thriving with Baby. We actually want a brick and mortar community center and like doing the podcast and want to get on more stages, more podcasts, really spreading the word so that we can share this mindset, say the things that people are looking for,
Yeah.
connecting with people, making sure they feel seen and heard. Because so many people aren't feeling seen and heard and
Yeah.
feel scared.
I love that. And how can people keep up with you?
Instagram too. Oh,
What?
that's it. So www.thrivingwithbaby.com is the website. My
Mm-hmm.
Instagram is Thriving with Baby Chicago. Marcus' Instagram is actually pretty good. He's very creative. So Like he has a lot of the videos and stuff from the road, and he's he's a lot more creative than I am. So my Instagram is kind of sporadic. It's there, stuff is there. I'm gonna make you feel good. But if you want some real art, what is Instagram?
Yeah, and that's Marathon Marcus 79. Um, and again, like I'm in a tech health space right now. And so my goal is to, I'm on the operation side and management. And one thing I do want to do is help her get that set up. I do know bookings and all that stuff, and to a point where, yeah, it's something that we can build together and just help folks. Especially when it comes, like, yeah, my main focus is men, and we're post COVID. Men they just dealing with it. Like that's a whole nother that's a whole nother conversation. And so yeah, literally just like having that a space for families to come. We'll have things, community things, specifically when it comes to, like, a male can feel like, hey, this is something I want to be a part of. Like, it's nothing that my wife is dragging me to. Nah, we gonna have our own rooms and sections and things like that. I've been groups, and that's my lane. And we have real conversations, very transparent. Folks are vulnerable. Not none of this. You see some of the stuff that's out there.
Yep.
Everything's military. Like, we gotta. We're men.
Yeah.
Nah. This is a safe space for you to be real and show your true self, and not fall into all that trap, and you're just letting loose. So
I love that.
yeah.
Well, appreciate you guys. You guys are very purpose driven. Thank you for coming on the show. And having this incredible conversation. And this has been another episode of Conversations of the Heart. Thank you very much. Tune into this series about postpartum and get all the education that you can, because this topic is necessary and it needs to be seen and heard amongst the masses. Tune in next week. Peace.